Well, first off, we're going to talk about surviving disaster, but we've got an abundance over there of food. Thank you, Cheryl.
Yes.
Thank you. I mean, that's fantastic. It's all vegetarian. It's amazing. But now, when you talk about, last week we talked about surviving disaster on food storage, okay, which is vital in transportation. Now this, if you look at this, do we really need to prepare? I mean, we're in Orange County. What can happen? Well, earthquake, I've been through a couple of them, but you got to figure, everywhere on the planet, there's going to be an interruption of services sometime, somewhere in your lifetime. So the more prepared you are, the better. And I mean, these are some of the choices. A solar flare can do it if this solar flare hits, and they do all the time, every few hundred years. It could wipe out the satellites, which means we'd lose cell phone connection, we'd lose GPS, we'd lose a lot. Obviously earthquake, economic, flood, Fukushima, all of these are possible. But instead of worrying about Armageddon or worrying about this, the more prepared you are, the better you're going to be to survive. Now, when you look at it, just plan your life around no services for 6 months to a year. I mean, no services. I mean, nothing. I mean, it's up to you. I mean, no cell phone, no water, no sewage, no food, no fuel. So you have to look about how not only we're going to survive, but how we're going to thrive. Now, first off, when we're talking about Huntington Beach being an island, and it pretty much is, you can't get to us unless you go under or over a bridge. So make sure, primary, no different alternate routes. Okay, so if, say, Beach Boulevard is wiped out, look for some other way to get on the other side of the 405. So look at alternate routes. Now, all the stores around us, Mother's Market, Albertsons, Whole Foods, I know it looks like there's an abundance in there. There's only 4 days worth of food. So when we talk about food storage last week, now we're going to talk about something vital. It's water. Now, how many people have, say, 60 gallons of water stored in their house? No, you should all raise your hands. Okay, you really should, because you don't know. There's water sources around your house, and you got to think per person, 1 gallon of water per person per day. Okay, and that'll take care of cooking, it'll take care of drinking, it'll take care of hygiene. First off, have you ever seen one of these? It's called a water heater. Okay, now what's neat is it's between 30 to 60 gallons, and even if the water supply is shut down, that water is stored there. So you can get access to this. So no matter what happens, you've got about 30 to 60 gallons. And we're talking 1 gallon of water per day per person. So that's about a month's supply of water here. And how you access it, on the top of it, there's 2 lines. One has a water line coming in that fills the container. The other one, it heats up inside of there, and then the pressure funnels it through the house. Well, if there's no pressure coming in from the city, that water is still stored there. So if you take one of those pipes off, you break the vacuum, all the water can flow out from underneath. So you've got at least 30 to 60 gallons. Another one is this. Now there's 2 containers that hold water in this vehicle here. This is known as the porcelain god, okay, my library, okay, or a toilet. So when you look at it, this area you don't want to drink the water there, but in the back of it, unless you have one of those, the thing that makes the water blue, the thing that cleans the toilet, if it's just clear, there's actually clean water back here, and it's usually a couple of gallons. Now, this, you have to find the water shutoff valve for your house, home, apartment, whatever. It's generally going to be located towards the street or towards the alleyway. Now what happens is there's water inside the pipes, and you're talking hundreds and hundreds of feet of copper wire. There's generally about 15 to 20 gallons of water stored in those pipes. So 15 to 20 gallons of water, that's almost a month's supply of water for one person. Did you know you had that? I know, isn't that interesting? Okay, so now this is how you access it. This is the shutoff valve to the street, so you can turn that off. And then what you do is you open the valves on the inside. You do that by going to the bathroom sink, you open it up, go into the shower, you open that up, and then you open this hose valve, and the water from the house will drain. So you just got to watch it. It'll drain into a bucket or some type of, container, storage device. So everybody has a certain amount of water storage, even if you're not planning in the future. It's already there. Okay, now, there's a couple of ways to filter it. One of the most frustrating things is when I'm watching Hurricane Katrina. I'm seeing these people dying of starvation when they're surrounded, or dying of thirst when they're surrounded by water. So how do you clean it? Now, this is the worst method. This is the absolute worst method you could possibly choose to clean water. One of them are iodine tablets. Now, it generally kills most bacteria. It doesn't eliminate toxic chemicals. And if you eat water that's laden with iodine, it's going to destroy your thyroid and eventually cause disease down the road. So in absolute emergency situations, it's okay, but it'll eventually kill you. Chlorine, which is what our city governments decided to put in our water, when they first started to chlorinate water, did you know there was a rash of appendicitis? Because it was killing our normal bacteria. It's actually poisonous. And then if you have chlorinated water, and this is really an antiquated system to try and purify our water. There's a lot of better, healthier methods. But if you're in a survival situation where you've got deadly water and you have to use bleach, a couple of drops per quart, 8 drops per gallon of chlorine, the problem is it doesn't kill all the bacteria. So it's dangerous, poisonous, and not real effective. But when you look on survival sites, they say, hey, look, this is one of the best methods, and it's not. The next one is boiling. Okay, so when you're talking no services, this means no gas going to the stove. And so unless you have a backyard with a bunch of firewood, and it takes a tremendous amount of energy to raise this to a boiling point, and then you got to boil it for a half an hour. That's a lot, particularly when you're talking 1 gallon of water per person per day. Now, I got 3 immediate people I got to take care of. You know, as many as maybe 10. So that's 30 gallons per day. You think I'm going to be boiling 30 gallons of water? No, that's ineffective. Okay, but it is an option. Now, this one is brilliant. This is what a lot of communities around the world are using, distillation. Now, there's 2 types. One, we use that big giant planet what's that one on fire? It's mainly composed of hydrogen gas. What's it called? The sun. The sun. Yes, thanks. Okay. Yeah, it rises every morning. Okay, very dependable. God put it up there. We should use it. The other one's steam. Now, steam's kind of a bummer because you still got to use the same fire source. Now, what happens is we're talking distillate. Now, what happens when you boil water, the impurities go out, it gets up there, it demineralizes the water, so the water doesn't have any good, healthy minerals in it, but it does clean it. It kills the bacteria and viruses and bacteria, and it also eliminates the heavy metals. But again, it requires a tremendous amount of energy. There's a way to distill it that you can capture it where you lose less energy. And you might have seen this kind of coil. This is the same type of distilling coil where the steam comes up, it goes around that copper coil, and it tends to cool off. So then it condenses into water. So you take water, steam it, and then it goes back into water. But again, that requires a lot of energy. And then you got this, solar. Now, the earliest that I could find is that some Arab alchemists back in the 16th century found out that the sunlight would actually take water from the ground, okay, and vaporize it and form it into clouds. And they were able to capture that. And it's called distillation. Now, in 1872, get this. Okay, now, our planet is covered 2/3 of ocean water. Okay, but we have a water shortage. Our planet is covered 2/3 of ocean water, but we have a water shortage. Anybody got a problem with that? Okay, good. So 1872, down in South America, Chile, they developed a solar distiller. Now we're talking almost 5,000 square meters. It produced almost 23,000 liters of water per day, and it operated for 40 years. Now, did they have electricity back then? No, they used that giant orb that rises up every day that's emitting a huge amount of energy down here. That's the only reason we have rainwater. Okay, they use that. I mean, incredible. Now, there's a couple of ways to use that sun. Okay, not just that they did back a couple hundred years ago. This is the basic design. The basic design is to have some way that you can hold water. Okay, it could be plastic. You could set it over the water itself. You have to have some way to store the water. And then you put a glass, plastic, or anything over at a slope. Now the sunlight's going to go in there. It's going to vaporize this. Condensation's going to connect to whatever you put over it, and it's going to drip down just using gravity. And that'll collect it. I know it seems ridiculously simple, but it gets even more simple. Because if you put seawater in here, the brackish water that's left, that brine, is loaded with salt. You can also use it for preserving food. Now, when you look at the different methods available, this is a really fancy method. So you could take a window out of your house, you can put it on there. You can use, this is giant sheets of plastic. Okay, it's called a double slope. The more brilliant ones go in there. How do you like this one? There's actually methods where they have containers like this that are plastic set right over ocean water, connected in a series, and they're almost the size of a house. Of course, they run off of solar pumps, and they're condensing ocean water right there into fresh water. Come on, say it with me. Wow! I know, it makes so much sense. We got an ocean here, and all those people in Hurricane Katrina were surrounded by this water, but they couldn't figure out how to filter it out. So if you get empowered with just a little bit of knowledge, you're never going to run out of water, ever. This is a tremendous amount of processing plant. Now, these are all using ocean water to convert it to fresh water, and they use solar power. Now, they have desalination units for boats, they have desalination units for towns, but they use a tremendous amount of energy. We already got the energy coming from the sun.
So
now,
where are those?
This one here is a massive town. This one happens to be in South America. I know it. See, in South America, they have a different system. Their governments and corporations are actually run for the people instead of the people are running for the governments and the social. Now, let's say that you don't have a massive water source. Let's say you're stuck in the woods. This right here is a portable distilling unit. Now, you can use this out of a poncho, a piece of plastic. What this is you dig a hole in the ground, and that's just a hole, and you put whatever you want in there. You can urinate in the hole, you can dump seawater in the hole, you can put green plants in the hole, do whatever you want to get moisture in that hole. And then you put a small cup in there and a rock, okay, or some type of weight. So the sun comes down, draws that up through condensation, it drips down, drips into the cup. Now you can produce, depending on the size of the hole and the size of the plastic, between a liter, a cup, or a liter, depending on the moisture content of the soil. I know, it seems too simple, and it is. It's not much water, but what if you have 5-6 holes? Okay, now, this one gets a little bit more expensive. Now, this is called Lifesaver. Now, the advertisement is that it'll produce 6,000 gallons, or 6,000 liters of water. So, you know, that's a lot of water, this one little unit, until you start reading the fine print. Now, this one unit here runs around 150 bucks. So you might think, well, you know, that's enough water for 6 months. And then you start looking at it, there's a little carbon filter inside that only lasts for about 600 liters. So you have to replace this all the time because these go bad. And then there's another filter on top that's just a screen to capture mud, sticks, whatever, that also get filled up. So this little $200 unit ends up being not real cost effective. Okay, $200 for one person for about a couple of months, that's not the best filter around. They do have some phenomenal water jugs, but again, those jugs, they're very, very expensive. See, I don't like to be called cheap, but just frugal. Economical, cost-effective. Okay, good. I was raised by a single mom with 4 kids. Okay, so I like frugal, cheap, and effective. So then I come across this method. Yes, it's not Sears, it's Home Depot. It's one of my favorite methods. Now, this method here is used in virtually every country with non-potable water or with toxic water. And what they do is they put basically semi-clean but toxic water in the top. And what this has in it is the most brilliant filter that's been around since the 1800s. This. No. I'm sorry, let me do that again. This. That's what I'm looking for. Oh my God. Okay. This is amazing. It's been around since the 1800s. It's a ceramic filter. And what it has in it is carbon. Now, what carbon is just charcoal. But activated charcoal, okay, is charcoal that's super heated. And I'll show you how it works. But inside here, the holes inside of the ceramic are so small that viruses and bacteria can't get in it. Okay, and then the carbon absorbs any heavy metals. So what happens when you look at this, you basically use one filter, which is just like a screen, you know, any kind of a sheet. And you filter it out first. So you get most of the mud, you get most of the sticks, and that goes in here. You see that? That's the carbon filter, or the ceramic filter. Now this is up to 3,000 gallons. I'm sorry, 1 gallon per person per day. Okay, so that's 100 days for 30 people. Okay, so I mean, we're talking, this would be a tremendous amount of water. Now this leaches out of here, and it goes into the bucket where clean water is. And then you have this really totally cool valve here. And this is utilized all around the world. So not only is this cost effective, cheap, okay, cost effective, but this massive, okay, remember this? $200, about $150 to $200? It's about 40 bucks. Ooh. I know. It just makes sense. It does. Not cheap, just frugal. This costs around $2.75. This costs $2.75. The valve sent me back $3. So you're talking about 50, 60 bucks tops. And that's if you don't buy at cheap places like I do. And that's going to have enough water that's clean, that's gravity fed, that doesn't require heat energy, that doesn't require chemicals. Phenomenal. Now what you might want to add to this, now this is a design, see, we've always had trouble getting clean water. We're talking back in the 1300s, 1400s, 1500s, and they found out that charcoal and sand are phenomenal filters. And what this is a great design. You put a giant tank of water that's semi-clean. You know, you run it through some kind of sheet or filter. But it's not healthy water. It's got some bad bacteria in there, maybe heavy metals or whatever. And it filters up through this, and you're going to see gravel, charcoal, gravel, sand, gravel, charcoal, sand. And that pattern traps toxic metals, heavy metals, and eliminates the bacteria. And then you get fresh potable water. So when you look at this, first thing that you got to do is screen. Screen the water or the water source. Okay, that nets off the mud and the sticks, because you don't want the mud clogging the holes of the ceramic filter or whatever filter you're going to use. The charcoal, sand, and gravel, fantastic mixture. So if you're caught in some environment where there's nothing but you, wood, and a match, can you make a filter? Yeah. Find some kind of plastic bottle. You cut it open, you put heavy gravel, you put small gravel, you cook some wood, you break up that charcoal, you put it in there, you put some type of filter, you can even use grass. You can make this filter, so you can make potable, healthy water out of that. My favorite one is the ceramic filter. Now, one of the things that we're going to talk about next week is first aid. I'm going to show you how to make an antibiotic that will kill antibiotic-resistant staph. It will kill virtually any type of virus, fungus, and bacteria. It's a small mineral. It's called colloidal silver. I'm going to show you how to make it. Okay. Now you can get it for about 20, 25 bucks over at Mother's Market for a vial like this. I'm going to show you how to make gallons for about $20 using just 9-volt batteries. Does that sound neat?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we know that silver particles in a microscopic amount actually has an antibacterial effect. Yes, I know, this is so good. Guess what this ceramic is impregnated with? Silver. How did you know? Oh my gosh. Oh yeah, I put it up here. Okay, well, you know, I thought the print would be too small. Okay, so yeah. So, I mean, the ceramic filters I'm just so blown away with, because 3,000 gallons, it removes heavy filters, removes nitrates. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible and cheap.
But what we have around here is seawater, and it's says it doesn't do seawater.
It will not do seawater, but how can we convert seawater into fresh? You distill it. Yep, put a piece of plastic over there, dump it in the ground, you'll get the water out of it. You can boil it. There's also 2 rivers close to us. There's San Gabriel River up there, there's Santa Ana River down there. Anyone know why Fountain Valley was called Fountain Valley?
It must be fountains somewhere.
Must be found somewhere. There's a tremendous amount of artesian wells because it used to be swampland. So if we stop pumping the water out of the ground, there's a tremendous amount of water everywhere. And even if you go to a dry riverbed, there's a great way to just dig down in there and you're going to get fresh water. Not clean water, but fresh water that you can put into it. Now this is the carbon or charcoal. Now the only difference between carbon and charcoal, it's the same. But carbon has been superheated and dried out. So it's heated but not burned. And what that does, this is a microscopic view of it. It has tremendous pores, but it's like a sponge, but not for water. It's a sponge for toxins. Now let's say that you accidentally get poisoned. Let's say that one of your relatives get poisoned and you rush them to the most modern facility the world's ever seen for emergency care. I mean, that's one of the things our medical system excels at. In health, they're horrible. In emergency, they're phenomenal. Best in the world. If they're coming in with poison, you might remember the old days they would pump the stomach, or they'd give you something to throw up, or they'd give you something to have it come out the other end. That's not the method of choice now for detoxifying a human being. Now, charcoal is the best one, okay, or carbon, because it binds to those poisons almost immediately. Phenomenal. So you can actually make this and make your filter, or you can purchase it. That's why it's in most of them. This is another way to filter. It's called black mica. Now, this is a mineral mined over in Asia. They might have some mines here. But again, it's very, very porous, and it's like a magnet to heavy metals. It's a magnet to bacteria. It actually kills anaerobic bacteria, eliminates chlorine and fluoride, which is vital because chlorine and fluoride are deadly in long-term doses. Reduces heavy metals such as mercury and lead. And what you do is you sprinkle it on the water or just spread it around. It binds to it, settles down to the bottom as an inert substance. But it comes in colloidal form. It comes in the inert form like this. It would be good to have in a small emergency kit, but still, I mean, I like the ceramic filters. So that's water. Many, many ways to distill out water, to clean water, to get it safe. Now, you might think that we're healthier and living longer than we were 200 years ago. Okay, and that's really not true when you factor out infant mortality. What's tough is the biggest advances, and you can see from 1900 to 1940, death rates were falling and plummeting from all of these chronic diseases. We're talking tuberculosis, scarlet fever, measles, mumps, rubella. All of these way before vaccinations. And all of these disease rates were falling because of appropriate sanitation. Okay, appropriate sanitation. And in fact, today, one of the deadliest things on our planet, 6,000 kids a day die because of inappropriate sanitation. When the sewers stop pumping, when we have waste that we have to get rid of, that's when diseases start. Next week we're going to talk about first aid. We're also going to talk about how to eliminate diseases, because the educated people here that are empowered will understand that waste management is vital. Not just vital, but it's also an asset. But waste management and appropriate sewage disposal is the primary reason that our society survived and thrived. Okay, this is more important than anything. Now, there's 4 things that you have to do with waste. You have to isolate it, okay, because when it first comes out of your body, you can't touch it. It's loaded with bacteria. It's also an acid. It's going to be a great fertilizer, but I'm going to show you how to process it. So it's got to be isolated. It can't be close to a water source. Has anyone ever heard of cholera? Okay. Well, what happened with cholera is they'd dig a hole next to the well, they'd poop in that hole, and it would infect the well, and they thought, well, for some reason we're getting sick, but we don't know. I know, we just didn't know. Okay, if you don't know, you don't know. I mean, it's like the guys shooting a flu shot. They don't know it's poison, toxic, neurotoxin, unstudied, and deadly. Okay, but we're going to talk about that later. Ventilation. Now, there's very few, I mean, my sisters, their poop doesn't stink, but everybody else does. Well, at least that's what my mom told me. Okay, but you know, I mean, women are made of sugar and spice and all things nice. So whatever happens is the waste, it does stink. So it needs to be ventilated. So any toilet that you have to think about odor control, which is vital. Also moisture. The drier the material, the better, the healthier for the bacteria. And then you need a bulking agent. You need something to allow air to get in there, to allow the bacteria inside of it to eat itself up. So we can utilize that rich material. And now, a couple of things. Now, these are some methods that I thought were amazing. Now, they had an indoor, now remember, back in the 1700s, outhouses were the norm. Southern California, it's not a bad idea to have an outhouse, unless it's raining. Back east, who wants to trudge through the snow to take care of business? You know, not me. So they came up with this design in the 1700s. What it was is they had a metal bucket, and once the business was done, they would pull a lever, and a little scoop of sawdust would go on top. Now look at the brilliance of sawdust. It absorbs nutrients, it absorbs water. Okay, it has a certain odor because it's super rich in oils, and it's a bulking agent, so it puts air in there. So defecate, scoop of sawdust. Brilliant design, it worked really well. And then when the bucket's full, you take that out and put it in a compost heap. Now, when you talk about food and food sources, there's a couple of brilliant books about soil. There's even a great video on dirt. Now, dirt is in short supply on our planet. I know that sounds strange, but healthy dirt is alive. Now, in order to have an area for one person to survive, you need about 4,000 square foot of plants in order to keep one person to have a continuous harvest. So how many people in this room have a 4,000 square foot garden in order to survive? Not many. I know, but now you got to think. When you start reading this, you start thinking 4,000 square feet, that seems too much. On all the books that I've read, 3,000 of those 4,000 square foot are to grow compost for just 1,000 square feet. See, you can live off of 1,000 square feet very, very well. Okay, total vegetarian diet, continuous harvest, particularly in California. In California, we can have 4 growing seasons a year. But you need a tremendous amount of compost. You need a tremendous amount of nutrient richness in that soil. And that's where this comes from. Now there's a couple of different varieties here. One of them, this one, I love this. This one, the Buckmeister Folio Award. Now Bucky, this guy, talk about a genius. If you ever get a chance to see a modern day Da Vinci, it's Buckmeister Fuller. This toilet here is made 90% horse poop. Yes, the toilet itself is horse poop. Okay, so I know. So what they do in this, and this was made in New Zealand, winner of the design award, once it gets full, and you know, again, poop, peat moss, compost, or sawdust, once it fills up, you put the whole thing in the ground and it becomes its own little composting generator. Phenomenal. This would be the ideal, because the human fecal material, okay, will eventually develop its own heat, and the heat from the bacteria activity will actually make it safe to utilize in the gardens anywhere between 3 months to 2 years. So it has to sit there a long time. And you're going to be putting plant material on there, you're going to be putting waste material on there, but a compost is fantastic. Now this is a gorgeous bathroom. I like it. Did you know that that's a sawdust toilet in there? I know. Modern, beautiful, effective, because a lot of people are starting to live off of the grid. Now, when we look at this, okay, great. I don't have a massive 4,000 square foot. I don't have massive amounts of composting. I have 2 little composters, so it's not going to be effective for me. What do we do now? First off, this is the most ideal. You have to do urine collection, because remember, you have to get that waste dry. It has to be aerated, so you have to use either peat moss, dried plant material, dried grass, sawdust, anything to allow it to dry out, you have to separate the urine. Okay, that's vital. Now this is a urine collector, and this is a standard design where you actually have a bucket. We have a metal bucket at our house that we have because it will generate heat. And we also have a metal trash can at our house that's specifically for human waste. One metal trash can. I'm not going to put it in with our standard compost because it may take between 3 months to a year before it's safe. If you start mixing unsafe fecal material inside of your plant, you can actually develop certain diseases from it. And so I'm not into that. Now let's say you live in a condo. Condo, no water, you can't flush. What do you do? What do you do? I'll tell you.
Neighbors.
Well, no, you can't go to the neighbors because the neighbors have the same thing, okay? You know, we're talking the entire block doesn't have water or sewage, even if it's only for a couple of weeks, okay? Kitty litter. I know, isn't that a great idea? Okay, so you take this, you drain the water out of it, which is easy, you just flush and the water goes away. Put a trash bag in there, defecate, scoop of kitty litter, defecate, scoop of kitty litter. When that gets filled